Welcome back. For the second time in this channel, we're going to talk about Nikon products. And in this specific case, we're going to talk about the 40mm f2 by Nikon. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I love the 40mm equivalent focal length, equivalent because on APS-C it's going to be a 27 or 26, something like that. And I've owned different cameras or lenses that go in that direction. But the one thing that I've never owned is 40mm f2. Usually, I don't know why, companies tend to build that focal length on an f2.8 aperture, which, I mean, it's fine, but it's not f2. When I decided to invest in Nikon as well, this is a conversation for another video. This is my Z7 that you see over here. We're going to talk about that in another video. I don't want to overcomplicate this one. The obvious choice for me was to start from one of the focal length that I love the most, especially because Nikon makes it an f2. Again, it's an f2 lens, it's compact, it's lightweight, it meets all the criteria of my dream everyday street photography, home stuff type of lens. However, and I purchased this lens new. However, as I was saying, I was about to return this lens because this lens is quirky. It's definitely not perfect. And again, you should not expect perfection from a lens that it's sold MSRP at $350, $300, something like that. You should not expect perfection. But some of its quirks were almost enough to make me return this lens. Let's start with the construction, then we're going to get to the quirks. The construction is very simple. Like there's nothing. There's no metal at all. Even the back of the lens, as you can see, is all plasticky, which may be a concern for some, and for some may also be a showstopper. And I'm a little bit concerned in the long term. So I would definitely understand why it would be a showstopper for some. It's not for me, although from a first-party lens, I would have expected at least the lens mount to be metal, but however, it is what it is. And aside from the manual focus ring that you can assign to something else from the menu, you basically don't get anything. You don't even get a hood. And funny thing is, not even ready to accept a hood. Even if you wanted to purchase one, you need to purchase a screw-on one because there's no bayonet for a hood. Is it a problem? Not really, but I mean, it's still a first-party manufactured lens. I would have expected, if not the hood, at least the possibility of adding a hood that is not quirky, because screwing on a hood is just, you cannot put it back to save space in your backpack. It's just, it doesn't make too much sense. So at the end of the day, I'm using this lens without a hood. Not a big deal, but still, I would have expected something in that regard. Everything's plastic. Nikon claims, and it's Nikon, not Nikon, claims that there's some weather sealing on the inside, which doesn't make too much sense because it's a very cheap lens. It's a very plasticky lens. It doesn't have weather sealing on the mount. So anyways, they claim it has some. We're gonna have to believe them, and it's just weird. But aside from that, it's fairly compact. Now, compact for Nikon is kind of weird because it's not long. You see it in my hands. It's definitely not a big lens by any stretch of imagination, but also being the Z mount pretty huge, the lens is definitely, the diameter of the lens is not small. But for Nikon, this is a compact lens. Going on, talking about this lens with image quality, that's where the quirks start to creep in. As I mentioned, it's not a perfect lens. You should not expect a perfect lens. That needs to be clear. For $300, I purchased it. For less than that, it's definitely, you should not expect that. And this lens is not perfect. When it's wide open, there's a huge vignetting, and the sharpness is not great, even at infinity. But the thing, and this is the most annoying quirk that I found, is that this lens is not sharp. I mean, you would expect a lens in this price range to be mushy, when it's at the minimum focusing distance. It would not be the first and it would not be the last. A lot of lenses do like that. It's hazy when it's at the minimum focusing distance. At f2, you just need to get to f4 to get a decent sharpness when you're very close. But the thing is, even if your subject is 2-3 meters away, which means is 9 feet away from you, it's still not sharp. It's definitely weird because these type of lenses usually are very bad, very close, but as soon as you back down a little bit, they become really good. This thing is decently sharp at f2 at infinity, or when it's far away from the minimum focusing distance, meaning meters away from you, but then becomes very mushy at short focusing distance. And this means if you're shooting this lens at home, which to me would be a very good lens to do that. If you're shooting friends, if you have a family event, if you have something that you're doing, and you're shooting people that you usually have not far away from you, this thing is not going to be very sharp. This is the single reason that made me almost return the lens. Aside from that, as you stop down, the lens gets better, the center gets really good at f2.8 and it still increases at f4, and it basically stays like that from f4 to f8, f11, then diffraction creeps in and it definitely ruins the performance. Corners are very soft at f2 and they get a little bit better at f2.8, but they're not good. They get very good at f4 and at 5.6 you get a pretty much perfect lens corner to corner. The good thing about this lens, and this is the reason why I'm keeping it, is that aside from the technical aspect of everything that we've just discussed, this lens can be defined as characterful. It's the single thing that is making me keep this lens is the character that you get out of this lens. And the funny thing about it is that the most of its character comes out at f2, meaning wide open, which also happens to be its weakest spot, especially when you're shooting close, which is, again, quirky. But the character comes from the heavy vignetting, the very good three-dimensional look that you get, the smoothness of the background, the way it progresses from in focus to out of focus. It definitely gets you that look that now that I've shot with this lens for a week or so, I can immediately tell that shot was done with this lens. It's just its imperfections, its flaws, if you want, come together in a smooth, definitely not sharp, but characterful and pleasing image. And as I was editing the pictures that I took in this week or so, and you're seeing them right now, I started changing my mind because I started with this lens, I started shooting my cats or my wife at home, and I was seeing the lack of sharpness, and that thing was getting my nerves. But then I started shooting outside. I started using it in real world scenarios, and the hate that I had developed with that lens turned into love. This lens is characterful. It's not perfect. The autofocus sometimes misses. It's definitely not like if you're investing in Nikon, you're not investing in Nikon for this lens. But if you are Nikon and you want a characterful lens that you're going to be using on several occasions, you're doing street photography. I loved the results that I got with street photography with this lens. This lens is definitely going to be one of your best friends. Again, you need to accept its flaws. You need to accept the fact that it's not uber sharp at f2. It's actually pretty soft unless you're shooting at infinity. But aside from that, this lens is going to get you that look. And that look is what gives your pictures that additional character. I've been saying this word over and over and over again, but there's really no other way of saying it, that making feel special. And getting that out of a $300 lens, which is plasticky, cheap, whatever. It's not cheap. You don't feel it cheap, but it's definitely inexpensive and not premium. It's something. It's something that is pretty nice to have because it makes it easy for you to mount it on the camera, get out, shoot, and get very, very pleasing results. So it's up to you to decide whether this lens is for you or not. If you're a crazy pixel peeper and you go after sharpness all the time, this is definitely not the lens for you. But on the other hand, if you are a little bit more tolerant towards non-super sharp images, non-clinical images, this lens is definitely going to get you results that you're going to love. So for me, this lens went from I'm sending it back to a keeper, and I'm definitely going to keep shooting with this on my Z7. For you, it's up to you to decide. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or should not buy this lens. I hope with a video like this, you can tell whether it's a lens that you were willing to explore or not. At the end of the day, it's cheap, so you don't have to spend too much. If it doesn't work, even if you sell it afterwards, you're not gonna waste that much money. Guys, I guess that's it for today. I will explain, as I mentioned already, my investment in Nikon. I didn't abandon Fuji and I didn't abandon Sony. So I'm expanding my spending this channel. I'll explain that in another video that is going to come soon, I hope. I hope you like this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Ciao, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.